Hi, this is Courtney Kopek from Cake and Kale Lifestyle. Today I'm going to be doing my first video blog. Pretty exciting for me. I've never done one of these before, but because my computer is still broken, I decided that I really don't have much more of a choice than to try the video blog out. So, that being said, today I'm going to be talking to you about something called intuitive eating. And this is a concept that I discovered maybe about a year ago, and it just completely changed how I related to food and kind of just how I related to my body and saw food. It was really just life-changing for me. And it's something that is a huge part of my practice with my clients. And it's kind of funny because the first time that I ever brought up intuitive eating was to my husband. And I remember we were sitting on the couch, and I was like, yeah, I discovered this thing I just was reading about called intuitive eating. And he's like, oh, okay, so what's that? And I said, oh, it's where you just kind of listen to your body cues, kind of like figure out when you're hungry, and then, kind of like decide what you want to eat based off of sort of what your body is telling you that it needs. And then, you just eat until you realize that, okay, now I'm full and I don't need to keep eating. I'm just going to stop. And he was like, well, isn't that just like regular eating? Which, coming from a guy, come on, like, of course that would be his answer. And not to say that there aren't guys out there who don't have, like, issues with food and whatever. I'm not trying to say that at all. But especially from my husband, who's, like, never had a body problem whatsoever. It was, funny. But it was also really true because, yeah, that is, like, regular eating. That is the way that we are supposed to be eating, is intuitively. And I think that what happens, especially to a lot of women, is that we get so caught up in all these diet crazy things that we hear out there about, oh, you shouldn't eat eggs because there's too much cholesterol, or don't eat butter, it's too fattening, or you have to eat all organic, don't eat any GMOs. Like eat low fat. No, you should be eating high fat. Eat low carb. Eat high carb. Like only eat shakes. Make sure you have a protein shake at this time of the day. Don't eat carbs before you work out. It's never ending, the amount of information that's out there about how we're supposed to be eating. And I think that it's pretty easy to just kind of get away from yourself and not even remember what it is that you want to be eating anymore. And then there's a lot of other factors that come into play. Certainly stress throughout the day always affects what we're going to be eating, what's going on with our lifestyle. If you're a stay-at-home mom, you're going to be eating very differently than someone who is a working mother, or just a working woman in general. Or if you're, lucky enough to not have to work at all and you just travel all the time, like you're going to be eating very differently than someone who, like me, who doesn't get to travel at all. So all these things come into play, and it's really important to start getting back to the basics. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk to you about right now is a little bit about the basics of intuitive eating. The first thing that you really have to kind of start with is sit down and make a list of all the foods that you deem as bad. And the reason why I ask clients to do this is because it's just so part of our culture to label foods as good and bad. Like cake is bad, pizza bad, steamed vegetables good, right? But if you're always eating steamed vegetables, like, is that really good? Don't you start getting sick of it after a while? And then what happens? Then you go to the cabinet and now you're eating like every cookie in sight, an entire bag of chips. All the bagels in your freezer come out. You're like, I'm defrosting all of these. I'll eat them all tonight. Well, that's just me anyways. So, you kind of have to start rewiring your brain. This is a huge part of it. And get rid of these labels that you have around food. And the other thing I ask people to do often is just write down what are some foods that sound good to you. Don't worry about whether or not they're healthy or not healthy. Just think about things that you like to eat. And in different seasons, like what do you like to eat when you go to a barbecue? What do you like to eat when you're at a street fair? What do you like to eat when you're going out to dinner? What do you like to eat when you're at home? What's some of your favorite winter dishes? Like, what do you love to eat around Thanksgiving? Just start letting your mind flow and write down all the foods that sound really good to you, because there's no reason why you can't have any of those foods. Unless there's some serious thing going on in your system where you've got an allergy or something like that, then I understand. But otherwise, you really can eat whatever it is that you want to eat. It's learning how to be very mindful and very intuitive with the eating. So start with that. Sort of go through these lists and ask yourself a little bit about why you kind of have some of these feelings towards these foods, or why you have thoughts about what makes them foods that you really enjoy eating. Maybe some of them have some memories for you. I mean, I love birthday cake. I love the smell of birthday candles being blown out, matches, anything like that just makes me super happy. So I like to have my birthday cake. And some of us have foods that we just completely will not touch. I've mentioned before in a lot of my blogs that ice cream is something that I'm still working through, being able to enjoy that without feeling like I've done something bad for myself, or I'm going to gain weight if I have the ice cream, or I can't control myself around having like a few bites of it. I'm just going to keep thinking about it. It's all really important stuff to start sorting through your relationship with food. And that is kind of like the first thing you have to do on your step toward intuitive eating. And then another thing that I also recommend is figuring out your hunger cues. This is not easy to do if you're eating in a rush. And like so many of us today, that's kind of how we're eating. We're just so busy. We don't really have time to sit down with our food, really take it in, enjoy the things that we're eating. It's just like shove it all in your mouth and get out the door. And I get it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I end up just eating a meal like standing at my kitchen counter. I think the only time I really get to sit down and eat a meal is, every night with my family. I really try to do that, or if I'm going out to eat. But like breakfast and lunch, a lot of times I'm just sort of standing. But I still try to be mindful while I'm eating those foods. And what I mean by mindful is take in what's on your plate. Notice what's there. Appreciate what's there. Ask yourself, do I feel like this is a good amount for me? Do I think that this might be too much? Just really absorb everything you're seeing on the plate, the colors, the smells, the textures that you're going to be feeling in your mouth. You want to be getting engaged with your food. It's a celebration. You're nourishing and feeding your body. It shouldn't be something that's happening because you're anxious. It shouldn't be something because, it's 3 o'clock and I'm supposed to be eating at 3, unless you maybe have diabetes or something like that, where naturally you need to control your blood sugar. But I mean, overall, you just want to be very mindful about what's on your plate. Enjoy what you see. Enjoy what you're eating, and take your time. Don't sit in front of a TV with it. Don't have a book in front of you. Don't, if you can help it, have screaming children around you. Make a place that's quiet and easy for you to sit down with. Start eating your food. Pay attention. Do it slowly. The mind and the brain have cues that work in sync when we're eating. If we're eating too quickly, the brain doesn't have time to tell the stomach that we're full. These are important cues that we need to be able to pick up off of. If you're eating slow enough, you're going to recognize when you're full. This means chewing your food, too. You've got to chew your food. Like at least, 15 times per bite. Like just don't swallow it all down. Really be mindful. Pay attention to what you're doing with your food. Be in the moment with it. And then this way you can tell when you're full. And then when you feel like you might be getting full, but you're really enjoying what you're having, say to yourself, okay, so I can have this now, I can have a second serving now, or maybe I could wait another half an hour, and if I'm still really hungry, I'll come back for it because it's still going to be there. We have this, what's called like the Last Supper mentality, where we feel like we have to eat all this food right away because we're not going to be able to get it again later, and it's always there available to you. If you want to have potato chips, go ahead. You can have potato chips. You don't have to finish an entire bag in a sitting. Although that can be hard for some people, and that can be a trigger food, and that's something else that, I discuss and work with my clients on as well. But for the beginning with intuitive eating, just take it slow, take it simple. Make a list of what you like to eat. Make a list of foods that you consider to be bad. Ask yourself why those foods are considered to be bad. Go over what your feelings are with those foods. And then think about maybe adding one of those foods into your day every single day. If you think cookies are bad, maybe you want to start adding in like 1 Oreo a day and see how you feel about that. If you feel like you can't control yourself with just 1 Oreo, don't go there yet. Just start with your list of good and bad and start sort of opening yourself up to what your feelings are around the foods that you're eating. Also be mindful, take your time, sit in a quiet place at least 1 meal a day if you can, without distractions. Enjoy the moment that you're having with the food that's nourishing you. And that's my starting video for intuitive eating. You can always get more information on my website, which is www.cakeandkalelifestyle.com, where you can reach me. You can email me at courtney@cakeandkalelifestyle.com. Follow me on my Instagram, which is Cake and Kale Life. Facebook, also Cake and Kale Life. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great afternoon.